The human had no money, and the alien landlady had no husband. The rain came down in curtains of silver light, hammering against the plexiglass awnings of the old dock district. Mason kept his head low, the threadbare hood of his jacket doing little to stop the soaking. He had 3 credits left in his pocket, barely enough for a stale ration bar, let alone a roof over his head. Humans didn't have much of a place in the city of Tyara. The alien metropolis belonged to the Veyari, tall, graceful beings with skin that shimmered in colors like living gemstones. To them, humans were curiosities at best, burdens at worst. Mason had learned that the hard way in the months since the freighter he'd stowed away on dumped him here. When he reached the end of the street, a flickering sign caught his eye. The letters were in jagged Veyari script, but he picked up enough of the language to make it out. Rooms for rent. He swallowed. He didn't have enough. But still, he stepped inside. The interior was warm, lit with amber glowstones. The air smelled faintly of herbs and something sweet, like spiced tea. Mason brushed water off his face, blinking as his gaze fell on the figure behind the counter. She was Veyari, tall and elegant, her skin a pale violet that shimmered faintly when the light struck it. She wore a simple robe tied at the waist, and her dark eyes studied him with quiet curiosity. "You are drenched," she said in halting Terran, her voice low and musical. Mason gave an awkward shrug. "Yeah, sorry. I saw the sign." "Rooms?" The alien woman inclined her head. "Yes, but it costs." He pulled the few credits from his pocket and placed them on the counter. Her gaze lingered on them for a long moment before she let out the faintest sigh. "That will pay for one night. No more." Mason's shoulders sagged. One night was better than none. He nodded. "I'll take it." She handed him a brass key. Their fingers brushed as he took it, and for a moment he thought he saw something flicker in her expression, an emotion he couldn't place. The room was small but clean. The sheets smelled faintly of lavender-like herbs, and for the first time in weeks, Mason slept without fear of being chased out into the streets. The next morning, however, reality returned like a stone dropped in his gut. He had no money left. He lingered in the doorway of the boarding house, debating whether to slip away before the landlady caught him. Instead, she found him. "You are leaving?" she asked, her voice calm, though her eyes studied him too closely. "I don't have enough for another night," Mason admitted. "Thanks for letting me stay, though. It was more than most would have done." She tilted her head. "Most humans here are not alone. You are?" He nodded. She was silent for a while, then finally said, "I am Serena. This house is mine. My husband is gone 2 cycles now. The place is large but empty. Quiet. I do not like quiet." Mason wasn't sure what to say, so he just shifted uneasily. "I can't pay, Serena. Not unless I find work." Her gaze didn't waver. "Work, yes. Perhaps we can make a trade. You stay. You help me keep this house. Fix what is broken. Carry what is heavy. And you teach me better Terran words. I wish to learn." Mason blinked. "You'd let me stay here? For chores?" "Yes." He hesitated, then gave a slow nod. "Deal." Days turned to weeks. Mason found himself falling into a rhythm. He patched leaking pipes, scrubbed moss from the outer steps, carried in crates from the market. In return, Serena showed him how to prepare Veyari dishes, steamed root vegetables, spiced grain cakes, and rich stews with glowing mushrooms. Their conversations were halting at first, broken between his rough Veyari and her learning Terran. But slowly, their words bridged the gap. One evening, after they shared a meal, she asked, "Why did you come here, Mason? Your people are far." He stared into his bowl. "No family. No one waiting for me. Thought maybe I'd find something better out here. He gave a humorless chuckle. Didn't exactly work out. Serena was quiet a long moment. Then she said softly, "You are not the only one who is without." He looked up, meeting her dark, luminous eyes. And in that silence, he understood. The city whispered. The Ari neighbors began to notice the human always at Serena's side, carrying baskets from the market, fixing the shutters, walking with her in the gardens. Some whispered disapproval. Others only stared. One night, as Mason repaired a loose tile on the roof, Serena climbed up to join him, her robe trailing in the wind. "You hear them, do you not?" she asked. "Yeah," Mason admitted. "They don't like the idea of you letting a human stay here." Serena's lips curved faintly, not quite a smile. "They also do not like that I am without a husband. But still I live." Mason glanced at her, heart thudding strangely. "Doesn't it bother you? What they say?" She turned her gaze to the glowing skyline. "Sometimes. But it is not their house. It is not their life. It is mine." And now her eyes met his. "Perhaps ours." The word struck him like thunder. They did not speak of it directly after that. But the air between them had changed. When he brushed her hand by accident, neither pulled away. When she lingered beside him, her shoulder against his, the silence carried a weight that was no longer uncomfortable. One evening, the rain returned, hammering on the roof as it had the night Mason first stepped into her house. Serena poured 2 cups of spiced tea and sat across from him. "You came here with nothing," she said softly. "No money, no family, no place. And still you have given me much." He shook his head. "I've just been doing chores. You're the one who gave me a home." Her hand reached across the table, covering his. Her skin was warm, faintly shimmering in the glow light. "You gave me company, laughter. A reason the house is no longer quiet. That is more valuable than credits." His breath caught. Slowly, he turned his hand beneath hers, their fingers tingling. "I don't know what's next," he whispered. "Then," she said, her eyes steady and unafraid, "we will find it. Together." The days that followed no longer felt borrowed. Mason no longer thought of himself as a guest. He was part of the home, part of Serena's world. The neighbors still whispered, but now he saw the way Serena held her head high, unshaken. One morning, as the sunlight spilled through the windows, Mason stood on the balcony, watching the city wake. Serena joined him, wrapping her robe around her shoulders. She leaned against him lightly, and for the first time since he'd left Earth, Mason felt something bloom in his chest that had nothing to do with fear or hunger. Hope. He had come to this city with nothing. No money, no future. And she had lived in this house with no husband, no warmth beside her. But together, they had made something new. Something like family. Something like love. And as the city spread before them, alive with color and possibility, Mason knew he didn't need riches, or even a place in the grand design of things. He only needed this, her hand in his, and the home they had built together out of 2 empty lives.